Hello and welcome to the Excel Cave. Today we're going to talk about using the offset and the match formula for a dynamic lookup. But right before that, we're going to do the large formula. In this example here, we have monthly sales by region, and we want to use the large formula to get the 5 highest sales for this set of sales revenue. So the large formula is pretty simple. It's just your array, which is our sales revenue array, followed by the rank we want to get. Here we want to get the highest value, so it'll be a 1. To make this a little more dynamic, I'm going to insert the left function to get the first character of each of these values in column F. So I'm going to get cell F2 and the first character. That's all the left is doing. So when I drag this down, it will pull in the first character of each of these cells for our rank. And you can see these are our 5 highest sales, and if we filter the list of sales revenue and then scroll down to the bottom, you can see those are our 5 highest values. So nothing much to the large formula. It's pretty simple. So now we'll talk about the offset and the match formula. The end goal being we want to search on these 5 highest sales revenue to find the region where it happened and the month when it happened. So before I jump into that, I just kind of want to break down the offset just by itself and show you how it works. Think of the offset as you're starting somewhere on your spreadsheet and you want to go down a certain number of rows or up a certain number of rows and to the right or left a certain number of columns. That's what the offset does. You have your first input here, which is your reference. That will be your starting point. It can be any place you want, but generally the rule of thumb is to use a header where, in a range where close to where you want to end up. So we'll just use sales revenue. So that's our starting point. Now, the second input is the number of rows we want to go down. If you want to stay in the same row, you would put 0 there. If you wanted to go up, you would put -1. Usually we're generally going down. We're at a header, so we can't go up, obviously. So let's just say we wanted to go down 3. And then our next input is the number of columns. If we want to go to the right, like 1 column to the right, we would enter a 1. If we wanted to go 1 to the left, we would enter a -1. In this scenario, I just want to stay on the same column, so I'm going to put a 0 there. The next 2 inputs, they can vary depending on what you're trying to do. In this example, we just want to pull in one value. So what it is you're saying 1 for height and 1 for width. That's essentially saying I want a 1 by 1 cell. If you wanted, a range of like 4 cells, you would put 2 by 2. 2 for height, 2 for width. But if you do that, obviously it's gonna error out in a single cell because it can only hold, it can only pull back one value. You would only use that, more than one if you were inserting the offset into a formula that can handle arrays like the sum or the average formula. So here we're just going to use 1 and 1. And you can see that pulled back $19,000, $19,775, which is our beginning point, C1. We went down 1, 2, 3. We stayed in the same column, so that was 0, and we pulled back one single cell. So that is how the offset works. You can see as it stands now, it's not very automatic. Each time you have to specify a row and a column, and who wants to do that? So that's where the match formula comes in. The match formula is a lookup formula where you can specify a lookup value and then the range it's in, and it will tell you its relative position within that array or range, so you can have a lookup value and pull back where it's at position-wise in a list. So just to show you the match very quickly here, let's just say we wanted to look up this value here, the $19,775 in this array of this first 5 rows, and we want to pull back an exact match. So that would be 0. You can see it's at position 4, and that's pretty simple. There's 5 rows here in this array we selected, and it's in the 4th spot. So the idea is, rather than having to manually type in the rows and columns in the offset, maybe you can insert the match in one or the other or both for a more dynamic lookup. So we will do just that. What we want to do is look up these 5 highest sales revenues and use the offset and match to find the region where it happened and the month when it happened. So we'll get started here. I'm going to begin with the offset, and again, we're searching on sales revenue, so a good spot for our reference or beginning point would be the header for the sales revenue. The rows is where we're going to insert the match, because we want to do a lookup on the sales revenue. So this is the highest sales revenue. We want to look up this value in column C, and we want an exact match. Now, one thing you have to consider when inserting the match into the offset is that the match will give you the relative position of something. It doesn't take into account your beginning point, so you have to manually adjust for that. So in this example here, we have $33,420, which is our highest sales revenue. Well, it's counting the header, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's in the 6th position, but our beginning point is C1, and the match will return 6. Well, we don't want to go down 6. If we go down 1, 2, beginning from C1, if we go down 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that takes it 1 below our intended row destination. So you have to put a -1 there. So when inserting the match, you need to consider your starting point. And just remember that match pulls back the relative position, and you need to adjust for that. So now, our columns, we want to go one to the left because we're searching on sales revenue. We want to find the region that had this sales revenue. So we're currently in the C column. We want to go one to the left. So that's going to be a -1. And then our height and our width are both going to be values of 1 because we want to pull back one single cell. Now we'll hit enter. You can see that if we look at our sales revenue of $33,420, the region it happened in is the East District. You can drag this down. You can see our second highest value, $29,552. It happened in the South District. So now we'll drag this over, and it's still pulling the East District. Why? Because, well, we need to adjust our column. It's still looking at, one to the left. Well, to pull back the month, we want to go two to the left. So we'll adjust that, and that pulls back the month of February. So you can see that is a match. And for this, the second highest value, it is January. So, and just to show you via the evaluate formula mechanism, you can see C1 is our starting point. We inserted the match for our row value. We subtracted 1 to take into account our beginning point because, as I said earlier, the match only tells you the relative position. It doesn't think about your starting point and your offset. So we had a -1 there. So you can see our match lookup is $33,420. There's our lookup value, and the match is looking at column C to find where the relative position and then subtracting 1. So that pulls back 6. You subtract 1, and that takes you 5 rows down from your starting point, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we go 2 columns to the left, 1, 2, and that gets us the month of February. So that is how you can combine the offset with the match for a powerful lookup. Thanks for watching, guys.